Me and my girlfriend went onto the open Swedish ocean with an inflatable kayak. What's the worst that could happen?
Wild water.
We carry all of her stuff for 7 days. Tent, sleeping bag, drone, food, clothing. Many things went wrong and many things went right. Let's start at the beginning. As a kid, I always watched Bear Grylls. For a long time, I wondered, can I do that? Is watching someone survive enough to do it yourself? We didn't plan on drinking our own pee or sleeping inside a dead camel during a sandstorm like Bear Grylls did. Not because we didn't want to, there's just not that many camels in Sweden. Is it possible to watch a video on how to kill a fish and then do it yourself? Can we trust Google to identify mushrooms for us and not die from poison? Can ChatGPT help me find the best fishing spots? This was the plan. Drive from the Netherlands to Sweden, park the car, inflate the kayak in Söderköping, paddle for a week, eat fish, don't die, deflate the kayak in another town, take the bus back to the car, survive and live happily ever after. If we want to live happily ever after, we needed one thing. There's this fin under the kayak and we call it the relationship saver. Without it you go zigzagging across the water and before you know it you have two very frustrated people in the kayak. So if we wanted to live happily ever after, we needed this fin. Day 1. Kayaking for a few hours per day makes your biceps crave protein. If we could catch fish, we would come back with biceps so big that Arnold Schwarzenegger would be jealous. We needed to catch, kill and eat the fish. I didn't know if I could do this. The biggest thing I've killed in my life was, well,
Oh God.
a slug. The first few kilometers we had to cross a few canal locks. The operator told us we couldn't pass through with our kayak. This was frustrating because we had to take the kayak out of the water every time we passed the canal lock. At the last canal lock we pulled the kayak out of the water and we heard something snap. Shit. Our relationship saver broke and it was only the first day. ChatGPT didn't warn us for this, but luckily we brought some super glue. After letting the glue dry and carrying our kayak to the other side, we hopped back into the kayak. After 14 kilometers, we reached our first private island. This was the reason we were here. No people, nature, making fires, putting up our tent. In one word, freedom. Excited to test my grandpa's fishing pole, I walked over to a rock, threw out the spinner, and I felt something. Shoot! How big will it be? It felt like a massive fish. Can I pull it up the rocks and kill it? Everything happened in a blink of an eye. My primal instinct took over and before I knew it, the perch was laying lifeless on the rocks. My heart was pounding. This really happened. Before the trip I watched a tutorial and it worked out well. Great, we're going to eat a lot of fish this week. And now the disgusting part. I had to get the guts out. And people have been doing this for thousands of years and every time I go to a sushi restaurant someone just mechanically does it for me day in, day out. But this time it was special. I was thankful to the fish. It had a good life, only a very strange ending. And I just followed the instructions that I saw on the video online. And tada, 1 hour later we had a great tasting meal. It tasted delicious and it tasted like hope. Day 2. We crossed large waters. It didn't take long for the fin to break again. Fuck. I swear so much I'm glad we were not in Finland, because someone would have started a fight with me because I was constantly yelling, "The fin!" Paddling was a lot harder, and because of that we lost a lot of energy. That day it was raining, so during lunch break we made one hell of a fire, and I'm glad I still have my eyebrows. After the rain was over, the rain started again. The fin didn't work and we were completely drenched. But something strange happened. Hitting rock bottom gave me a sense of peace. I surrendered to the rain and my wet clothes. It was one of the most beautiful moments of the trip. Seeing the raindrops hit the water, being together with Annemarie and the elements. Soaking wet, we arrived in Narnia, an island covered by moss and dead trees. We are totally soaked in the rain, and now I'm going to make a fire out of wet wood. Yes! Woo. Time to dry. I was able to catch 3 more fish. Our clothes were dry, our bellies were full. We were happy. In the middle of the night, I woke up and I heard the crackling noise of a fire and light shining through the wall of the tent. I looked out and I turned my head to the right, and there was a fire the size of a football field. Well, a really small football field, like 1 meter football field. In my underwear, I grabbed an empty bottle and I ran to the ocean to get bottles of water. Annemarie asked me if I needed help, and I was like, nah, it's fine. But she also jumped out of the tent and started hitting the fire with sticks. And after about 10 minutes, we had everything under control and we went back to bed. But half an hour later, I woke up again of this crackling fire noise. I looked out, there was a fire again, but you know, same old. We are experienced forest firefighters by now, so we extinguished the fire again and we went to bed. The next morning we packed the kayak and we left off wondering what happened to that island. Day 3. Today we enter the real archipelago. No more rivers, it's only islands and open ocean from here. Frustrated of the fin, we came up with the idea of melting it together because it was made of plastic. But unfortunately we found out that this is the type of plastic that doesn't melt when it gets hot, so that didn't work out. Then we finally got to a kayak rental place. Hopefully they could help us at the end of the world. But the old lady also couldn't help us. But yeah, all we could do was just buy some bread and some beer for that night. So we set up our camp on a new island and I went out to catch some fish. But after waiting and fishing and getting my spinner stuck in the weeds, after more than an hour it was getting dark and I didn't catch any fish, so I didn't provide any food for the family. Day 4. On day 4 the water was getting wilder and we had to use a cup to scoop the water out of the kayak, and all of a sudden behind me I heard a big splash. I looked behind and Annemarie was in the water with her clothes on and everything. So she dropped the cup and then she dropped herself to get the cup. And one cup is lost. And we're in the middle of the great no man's land. Because she was wearing a life vest, she couldn't reach it, so she saw the cup tumbling away into the deep depths of the salty water. Very frustrating. So she was wet, cold, and we had to find a good place. As long as we were kayaking we were still warm enough, but we really had to get to a warm place. And luckily that day I booked a sauna on one of the islands. So a few hours later we arrived at the small campsite where there was a sauna. It was out of season, so there was no one. And we realized that we should have received a code for the sauna because it was locked, but we didn't, and I paid for it, so we felt betrayed. We couldn't go into the sauna, we were cold, we were angry and we were wet. So as an emergency situation, we just started walking around on this campsite, and there were a few bungalows, but all of them were empty. And I said to Annemarie, wouldn't it be great if one of these windows was open? And then I looked to the left and there was a bungalow with an open window. So we sneaked in there, not feeling guilty because we paid and we didn't get anything for it. So we slept there, the electricity was working, the heating was working, we were warmed up, and that night I went to catch some fish again.
I asked ChatGPT for help. I tried the right spinner, different location, different technique, and again, nothing. Day 5. We took a long hike over the island. Annemarie found a mushroom, and after a quick Google search, she was convinced it was edible.
En het is een kanterel.
She took a small, bitter bite and realized that Google was wrong. Hopefully, she won't die or hallucinate or both. Determined to provide food for the family, we went out on another fishing trip.
Again, didn't catch any fish unfortunately, but I remembered that a few months earlier we did a workshop in seaweed picking. Basically almost every seaweed is edible, so there was plenty of seaweed there. I picked seaweed, so that night we had a delicious seaweed curry. It was really good.
Day 6. We set out sail to the promised land, a village called Harstena. There's about 2 people living there all year around, and 7 houses for rent during summer. Most of the people who live on the island are working remotely in IT. And when we walked through the idyllic village, I was amazed by the robot lawnmowers. I think I finally found my tribe. They love nature and technology. After lunch at the bakery, we went to the absolute end of the world, Hradskar, the island with the lighthouse.
And we need to go right to the horizon over there. 12 kilometers. When you arrive at the horizon, you realize you need to go to the horizon.
Oh, and again, we didn't catch any fish. Seaweed for dinner. We went to sleep unaware of what awaited us the next morning on the waters around Hradskar. Day 7.
Campsite is being attacked by goats.
That morning, I decided to repair our relationship saver once and for all, with a block of wood and more super glue. It took forever to saw off a piece of wood, but I'm glad our foldable shovel had a little saw on it. That day we had to cross an open stretch of ocean for more than 6 kilometers. This was the shortest route. And if that sounds like a stupid thing to do with an inflatable kayak, it's because it is. Foolish, we set out into the open waters. It was time to try out our repaired fin. I put it under the kayak and it worked. Kayaking went smooth and easy until it broke 3 minutes later. It was just the ocean and two crazy people on a kayak, and the waves were getting really high, like 2 meters, I kid you not. Like they were carrying us up and down, and we had to steer the kayak so the water didn't come over the side of the kayak, but the kayak was so full, there was a big layer of water, and we were trying to steer the kayak in the right way and scooping out more water, and it was really scary because it was becoming super unstable, and we had to get to land as soon as possible. There was this small piece of grass we thought we saw on some of the islands in between the rocks, and we went there, and getting there was actually quite fun, although I was still pumped up with adrenaline. We were surfing the waves, so all we had to do was just paddle a little bit and the waves were carrying us towards the island. And when we got to this small piece of grass, we realized that it was an opening into paradise, because the waves were broken by the island, by the rocks, and behind it was just calm water, birds, grass, rocks and trees, sunshine, and we were in paradise. Okay, we reached the limit. Behind here is the wild ocean, and we almost died. We almost sank, and I had to take a lot of water out of the boat, and we had to get out of the waves because they were like 2 meters. They were really high, and now the adrenaline is slowly going away, and we made a new plan not to cross the ocean like two madmen, because there was a ship passing by, and it was like a decent ship, and it was already going like whoosh, 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 and we were on a small kayak. It's better to take a 10-kilometer detour than to drown. To cross the ocean. Yeah, that was crazy. So now we're just going to catch our breath. I thought that hell was full of fire, but that day I learned that hell is full of water. It was really scary. We got to our last island, made a large fire, tried catching more fish, and ate more seaweed. Day 8. The best has yet to come. We had to kayak to our final destination, a village called Valdemarsvik, and it was still 17 kilometers left. In total we kayaked for more than 90 kilometers, and the last 10 kilometers we could already see the village, and it took us 2 or 3 hours of kayaking towards the village while we were already seeing it, and it felt like it took forever. We finally arrived. Yes! At the dock we asked one of the locals the way to the bus station, and he told us that when he was younger he was able to catch massive fish there, but now there's no fish left anymore in the Baltic Sea. So we took the bus back to the car, and thinking back to the massive waves that we've conquered and to the 5 fish that we were thankful to eat, still wondering what happened to that island that kept catching fire. And even though the relationship saver was broken, our relationship was stronger than ever.